Whether you just bought a brand new set of stainless steel cookware or you've been using stainless steel cookware for a while, I've got some tips and some tricks that I'm gonna show you in this video about how to get the most out of them, how to make cooking easy with them, and how to clean them up and care for them so that they last forever, because that's why we buy stainless steel cookware. It truly does last forever. So I'm gonna make this as easy as possible for you, so let's get going. Now this video is sponsored by Heritage Steel Cookware, but I've also partnered with Heritage Steel Cookware for an awesome giveaway. They are giving away 2 8-piece cookware sets. One person's gonna win an 8-piece titanium set, another person's going to win an 8-piece eater series. That is fantastic, and all of those details on how to enter the contest are below in the description. But you will get extra entries to win the contest if you catch the secret word that I'm gonna put on the screen at some random point in this video and comment that down below with which set you hope to win, okay? Whether it's the Eater series or the Titanium series. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. So first, making cooking easy with stainless steel. It's easier than you think. So the first thing you gotta do is preheat your pan. And it's going to take a couple minutes to just get up to temperature. And one of the things that's talked about the most with stainless steel cookware is called the Leidenfrost effect. Basically what that is heating the pan up to over 400 degrees. There are some different opinions, whether it's 400 degrees or 420 degrees or 435 degrees. Let's just say over 400 degrees for this video. Now, if you're not sure if your pan is over 400 degrees, you can get a surface temperature thermometer to place on there, or you can try an infrared thermometer. So if you really want to be precise, get a surface temperature thermometer, or if you have an induction stove where you can set the burner to the exact temperature you want, that's even better. Once you're over 400 degrees, you'll notice, because if you splash some water on the pan, it won't just evaporate and sizzle away. It'll just bead up on the pan and dance around, doing a little jig on your pan, and it won't go away because it's created a little vapor underneath and it's just risen above the pan. So that is called the Leidenfrost effect, or the bead test, or the mercury ball test. We're not actually using mercury in our cooking, but that is a way to know that your pan is ready to be cooked on for certain things, not everything, and I might get to that later. If you're using that technique, that's great for searing steaks, that's great for searing chickens and proteins, even anything as delicate as fish. You're going to get a great sear without having your fish stick to the pan the whole time. When you first place your protein in your pan, it could stick, but that's a good thing. You'll know when your protein is ready to be turned when it's not sticking. And that's the exact moment where you pretty much always have a perfect sear or perfect crust on the protein that you're cooking, which is a good thing. That's flavor, okay? That's the Maillard effect, that's what we all want. That is great cooking there. So that's the Leidenfrost effect, and creating a non-stick surface or a searing surface for your food. Now, the next thing I wanna talk about is cooking order. So we talked about proteins. You always wanna do your proteins first, get those done, and then place your vegetables in the pan. And the best part about cooking your vegetables second in the same pan is that all of the stuck on fond, it's called, on the bottom of the pan from your proteins will get lifted up by the water that's released from your vegetables. And if some of it isn't released, then all we have to do is deglaze, and we're gonna create an even better dish. You can deglaze with white wine, you can deglaze with red wine, you can deglaze with broth, chicken stock, beef stock, butter. You can deglaze with all these things to lift that fond off of the bottom of the pan and add that flavor back to your dish. And then what does that really do for you besides make your dish taste better? It also makes cleaning easier. So those are the steps. So preheat your pan properly on medium heat or medium high heat if you want to. Do the Leidenfrost effect and test it with the water. Add your protein, then add your vegetables, and then deglaze. And then enjoy your delicious meal that you've created, and wash your pans easily with soap and water and a sponge. That is all it really takes. Those are the main steps. Now I have a bunch of other tips on cooking. Also, don't overcrowd the proteins in your pan. If you need to cook 4 steaks and you have a 12-inch fry pan like this, cook 2 at a time. Don't overcrowd it. You could do 3 in there. It's a little crowded, but it's gonna be fine for most steaks if they're skinny ones, not giant ribeyes, okay? Let's talk about eggs for a minute. This is a point of contention, but a lot of people get this part wrong, including some people who are health professionals that I watch that I actually really enjoy their content. I'm not gonna say their names, it's not important. They do the Leidenfrost effect to cook their eggs. Okay, fine. But what you should know when you're doing that is that is far too hot for eggs. When you cook, but if you cook eggs at this temperature, you're going to basically destroy all the nutritional benefits contained in those eggs that you're eating. That is the reason why the Leidenfrost effect is way too hot for eggs. So we want to cook eggs at a lower temperature to preserve the nutritional benefits and cook them more evenly. At around 250 degrees to 270 degrees, you can kind of play with those numbers right there. Add your butter to the pan or your cooking fats to the pan that you want to use, and that butter will melt or that oil will start to shimmer. And now you want to just swirl that cooking fat all over your pan to cover every pore in your pan. Because what happens is the heat opens up the pores in the steel. And if you put your food in there at that temperature, that food is going to sink into those pores, and that's what's going to cause your sticking. So we're going to cover that with our cooking fats. And that temperature when we place our eggs in is not too hot, also not too cold to make the eggs stick to our surface. And you should be able to slide your eggs around at that temperature and not overcook them. And there's also another method you can try as well that I do sometimes because it's a little bit faster. Preheat your pan on medium, and after about 30 seconds, add your butter. Once your butter melts, add your eggs. And that cool temperature, as it heats up, will heat up with the egg and cook it at the same time, and your egg will just glide around in there as well. So those two methods of cooking eggs are far better than the Leidenfrost effect, and you will have all the nutritional benefits of those delicious eggs you're eating without them sticking to your cookware. If you need to cook without fats, the best way to cook eggs would be to poach or boil them. I love poached eggs. So poached eggs are going to cook your eggs at just below boiling. So if you need to cook without fats for some reason, you don't need to go with a non-stick surface. Poaching or boiling eggs is one of the most nutritious ways to cook your eggs. So you don't need a non-stick pan for eggs. If, because the reason you have one is because you can't cook with fats because of some underlying health condition. So, but and also one might argue that the side effects from a non-stick surface would exacerbate many other underlying health issues. Enough said on that topic. Now let's talk about cleaning the pans. All you have to do is clean your cookware with soap and water, and that's really the majority of the cleaning that you're going to have to do. Sometimes you'll cook with your pan, whether you're cooking bacon or you're cooking cheeseburgers in your pan or something like that, and you get cheese stuck to the bottom or something really, really piled up on there and it's really caked on and it's really difficult to remove. Don't worry about scrubbing that pan right away. Number one, you want to let your pan cool because adding cold water to a hot pan is going to potentially make them warp. Okay, so we don't want to do that. We want to let our pans cool. But the majority of times, letting your pan soak with hot soapy water is for about 20 to 30 minutes is going to release that stuck on food 8 times out of 10. Other times, fill your pan with water and bring it to a boil and let it boil for just a couple minutes, reduce the heat, and then scrape off the residual stuck on foods with a wooden scraper. Easy, they will come right off, and then let the pan cool, clean with soap and water. For other extreme circumstances, you can use baking soda or a stainless steel cleaner like Barkeeper's Friend or this one from Heritage Steel Cookware. And when you're cleaning with the Barkeeper's Friend or stainless steel cleaner, you basically just want to clean your pan with soap and water first, sprinkle a little bit on and rub it around with that sponge and create that paste. I like to leave it on depending on how gooky the pans are. Gooky is a pretty scientific term, I think we can all agree, but I like to leave the stainless steel cleaner on for a little bit longer. I have pretty much tried to destroy a couple of these pans a couple times on accident. The one time I was cooking outside with my grill, I left it on the side burner a little too long before adding the butter that I wanted to cook, and I didn't realize how hot the pan was, and just not paying attention, I just threw the butter in and immediately the butter just lit up on fire and just burned up my pan to no end. Well, no worries, the stainless steel cleaner and the Heritage Steel sponge cleaned it up with a little bit of elbow grease, and it's and it looks brand new. It looks like the day I bought it. And when it comes to sponges, you kind of want to take care because you don't want to scratch up your pan. Even though you scratch up your pan with a Scotch-Brite sponge, it's not going to affect the performance of your pan, really. It's just going to affect the aesthetics. But a really nice sponge like this one from Heritage Steel, which I love because we can just throw it in the dishwasher when it gets a little scuzzy and stinky, and then wring it out, and it's a brand new sponge basically. Again, the reason I like those Heritage Steel sponges is they have a nice scour side and a polish side, and that scour side doesn't scratch the material. And I have used these sponges for months and months and months, and I've ended up throwing away these sponges and starting with a new one at about the 4.5 month period. So you'll go through 3 of these sponges in a year basically. And with as much as I cook, that's probably more than the typical household, because I do this channel and, well, I just love to cook. Another thing you might notice start to happen with your stainless steel cookware is what's called the rainbow effect. And you can see I have a little bit of that here. I don't know if you can tell. It's happening a little bit here. So the rainbow effect occurs when high heat happens, or you're cooking at a little bit of too high of a temperature, and it's pretty much the pan's way of protecting itself. It's a thin layer of oxidized material, basically, creating a light effect that is purely cosmetic, okay? It will not affect how your pan cooks. But to get rid of it, it's actually really simple. It's 2 parts vinegar to 1 part water. Most of the times you can just take a teaspoon of vinegar, put it on your pan, wash it out with some water, and it's gone. Vinegar just takes it away. The vinegar will take away the rainbow effect. The barkeeper's friend or the stainless steel cleaner will polish them up and take away any crazy stains from food or heat. You'll get grease splatter from your foods that you're cooking, and it'll go on your cooktop, and you'll put your pan on your cooktop, and that grease can get on your pan. But don't worry, it's easy to clean that off with a little barkeeper's friend or the stainless steel cleaner. For those other serious times, a little bit of boiling water and scraping with a wooden spoon is gonna get off the rest of the stuff. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to care with your stainless steel cookware is when to add salt to boiling water. So a lot of people, when they're cooking pasta or anything like that, they wanna season their water with salt. They throw the salt in the water when it's cold. The only difference with stainless steel cookware is you pretty much wanna wait until the water's boiling, add your salt, and then add your pasta. Otherwise, you could have an effect called pitting, which is basically salt sitting on the surface too long and creating a little tiny hole in your cookware. So you don't want salt just sitting on your cookware. It will start to eat away at it a little bit. Remember when I mentioned that secret word? It's on the screen right now. Oh, another thing when it comes to cleaning is you may have cookware that has rivets. And the easiest way to clean those, if they start getting a little gunky, is with a toothbrush. So just have a cleaning toothbrush that you use that stainless steel cleaner with, you make the paste. You don't have to season a stainless steel pan. I don't. I've tried it in the past and I really don't see a major difference in doing it and taking the time to do it. It's actually really easy to do, but I don't see a point. Okay? If you're one that likes to season your stainless steel cookware, keep in mind that if you clean it with barkeeper's friend, or if you're going to cook acidic foods like tomato sauces and things like that, or you're pretty much going to get rid of that seasoning with that way of cooking. So something to keep in mind, you'd have to re-season again and again and again if you cook like that a lot. I think it cooks great without it. I cook with stainless steel cookware every single day, multiple times a day, and I don't season my cookware and everything comes out beautifully. Let's talk about utensils for just a second. I really do prefer wood utensils, and for some other times, a metal fish spatula comes in handy, or I like to use a high heat silicone fish spatula or something that is bendable that's not going to scratch my pans. So that's I use those kind of rarely. The majority of what I use are wooden utensils, and that's what I recommend. Wood is going to not scratch your pans. It's also going to be great for scraping up any stuck on bits while you're deglazing or boiling away any super stuck on foods. When it comes to storing your pans, so this is one of the easiest and cheapest ways to store your pans to protect them from scratching each other. Because a lot of times you'll take a frying pan and you'll just set it in your drawers for space because they layer quite nicely. As you open and close your drawers, they can slide around and scratch up your pans. So to keep them from doing that, there are various types of protective layers you can put on your pans to keep them from doing that. So something else to keep in mind as an accessory you might want to look into. And now for that giveaway again, they're both 8-piece cookware sets. The 8-piece in the titanium series includes the 3-quart saucepan with the lid, the 4-quart saute pan with the lid, the 8-quart stock pot with the lid, and the 10.5 and 12-inch fry pans. The Eater 8-piece set includes pretty much the same things. The 10.5 and the 12-inch fry pan, 3-quart saucepan with lid, 4-quart saute pan with lid, and the 8-quart stock pot with lid. So you are going to get pretty much everything you need with the 8-piece set, which is linked down in the description below. And there's a link to enter the contest also down below. It's really simple to enter. This contest is fully sponsored by Heritage Steel, and I thank them for that. And I think that's great that they're doing it. We're in a time where it seems like a lot of people are really coming around to cooking with stainless steel, and that's fantastic, and that includes myself. Now, if you want to learn why I switched from something as pesky like HexClad to Heritage Steel Cookware, you'll watch this video right here. There's a lot of information in there about Heritage Steel if you want to learn even more about them. If I missed anything, tell me in the comments. Let's talk about it down below. I appreciate you.